Here today, I would like to talk a little bit about pair programming. And before I do that, I would like to talk a little bit about problems that teams have. And the problems I would like to talk about are not the problems of the teams that are just starting out with Scrum or some kind of other agile methodology. We're talking about teams that are decent teams, teams that have no problems delivering code to production on a regular basis, teams that care a lot about the code quality and whether there are bugs or not. And the teams that a lot of people would just consider good teams. And one thing that I see oftentimes with those pretty good teams is they work in silos. And I did some agile training and some agile coaching recently, and we rely on those trainings and presentation and tell people about T-people, bus factor, and all those different ways of saying if this guy leaves the company or go on holidays or whatever happens to him, there are different people in team that can take over his work. But the practice oftentimes is that it doesn't happen because teams, agile teams, Scrum teams have tendency to fall into silos because it's very natural that I feel good about doing backend. I'm the guy who created this part of this module, this part of the software, and I'm the one who's maintaining it. And if I'm a manager, I know this guy did it. So if there is a bug, I go to that guy and ask him to fix it. So even though it's decent teams, they have this natural tendency to go into silos. And that oftentimes, again, leads to next problem, which is I don't learn that much anything. Because if you do for half a year, there's one module, or always backend code, or whatever is your silo, then quickly you stop learning, you start developing yourself. And that leads to the next problem, which is, well, I'm bored. I don't want to work in this project. I don't want to work with this customer. This technology is boring, and And there is one more problem that is not so heavily related to previous, that is code reviews. Good code reviews are hard. And I see the tendency that teams are falling into one of three solutions. One is we don't do code review. Second, we do a crappy code review. We mostly check the syntax. And the third, we do really good code review, but it takes a lot of time and it slows process way down. Because imagine you're doing one day task, and then someone is doing the code review on the next day, and then by the end of the day you start fixing your code according to the comments, and then the next day it's done, code gets reviewed again. So I started on Monday, it's already Wednesday, some minor changes, and by Thursday we're done. We deploy on Friday, and suddenly one day task is a week task. So I was looking for solutions for those problems for quite some time, and recently I get more deep into pair programming. So what is pair programming? Pair programming is a very simple practice that says two people are working in front of one computer. As simple as that. And there are two different roles. One person is the driver and one person is the navigator. The driver is the one who holds the keyboard and is writing at the moment, and the navigator is the guy who watches what the other guy does and checks the code on the go. And for the good code review, for the good pair programming to happen, they have to swap the roles pretty often. And what I learned about pair programming along the way is it's the area full of mythology, and like everybody heard about it, but nobody really knows what it is. Nobody really took care to really do good pair programming for a while, and therefore people really don't know what pair programming is all about. So let me check with the most popular myths about pair programming. So the first myth is it's gonna double your workflow. So now that we're doing pair programming, we need twice, what? Oh no, too fast. Okay, so we need twice the amount of time to do the same amount of features. Or we need twice as big of a team to do the same amount of features in the same time. Well, the truth is, and some of you might be skeptical at this point, the truth is that two people working together in front of one computer tend to be as effective or more effective as two people working separately. And I know there are some people here who don't believe me yet, and maybe they will never believe me, but there is a lot of scientific research about it. There's a lot of experiments done on universities and in companies that shows again and again that pair programming is very effective. Okay, so that was the first myth. The second myth, if you need to the right partner, the pair programming will only work if I work with the right guy. And surprising truth is that indeed there are some people who in general don't like pair programming. And there are some people who should not be forced to do pair programming, but most people, and again, experiments on my own experience and in many other companies shows that most people, if I would give a rough number, it would be maybe 80, maybe 90%, actually like doing pair programming. They just never tried, they never really see what it's all about. And most of those people who like pair programming like to pair program with most of the partners, not with everybody. Sometimes you don't like someone, sometimes there's some other reason why you don't do pair programming with that particular person, but in the end, most of the people do like to work with most of the people. And the next one, other myth is that pair programming is only good for training. So if you have junior developers, you sit with them in pair to teach them to code. And again, the truth is a little bit more complicated. It turns out that there are good pairing. Not all kinds of pairing are good, but there are good and effective pairing on all kinds of stages. So you can have a senior pair, you can have junior pair, you can have back-end, front-end pair, you can have all kinds of pair and have a really good outcome and really good efficiency. The other problem with pair programming is if I work in pair, I get no credit for my work. And indeed, a lot of people say when working in pairs is I don't get a credit, I don't do things from A to Z. So the solution that is often used to solve that problem is that you have task owners or module owners or whatever kind of piece of something owners that are responsible to bring this thing from A to Z. But they do it in pair with someone else, and the pair may switch and so on, or even some other pair can work on it, but this person is responsible for that part of the software. And then there is another myth that Navigator is the guy who only finds a syntax mistake. He's like the not so good compiler. And again, the truth is that good pairing has a tremendous impact on software architecture, on software design, on trade-offs, on how the product will come out in the end. And at this point, you must be even more skeptical. So we take two people together and now the magic happens and everything is better, right? But let me tell you about 7 synergetic behaviors, about 7 reasons why pair are more effective than two people working separately. So one is pair pressure. The pairs tend to spend more time actually doing work and coding and solving problems than the other that people separately that tend to spend more time on Facebook or in general Slack. Pair negotiation is another very powerful thing that is happening among the pair, because when two people are working together, they have this two ideas how to solve the problem, two approaches to coding, two different visions of how to do something, and the final result is the effect of negotiation of two people. So the solution that is the final solution is often much better. The effect of negotiations is often much better than just a first solution from that side on that side that we would go for. Pair reviews. I talked a little bit about code review, and I mean there is just no better code review than doing it on the go. And if you don't like some design decision or the way someone is coding, you can do it before the code is actually written. You can have a discussion and negotiation, not after, which also makes tremendous impact on what the final code is. Pair learning is probably, in my opinion, the most powerful of all synergetic behaviors. You learn more in the team that is doing pair programming all the time, and you keep switching your pair all the time. You learn more in a quarter than you would in some other company in a year or so. There's just an order of magnitude faster learning, because all the time you learn, all the time you switch partner and they have different approach to problems and you learn all the time. And this is especially good for people. There are a lot of people in our industry, and we've been focusing for too long on getting those people who, are fanatics and enthusiasts, and they work 10 hours a day, and then after work they have a hobby project, and so on and so on. But there's a lot of people, maybe even majority of people, who are clever people who want to develop their skills, but when they leave work and they don't want to learn anything about programming. And for those people, it's gonna make all the difference, because they're just gonna learn so much, not only so much faster, but probably they're gonna learn what they would never learn in some other setup. And the next very powerful thing that happens in the pair is pair trust. People who program together develops different level of trust and understanding of each other's skills. I understand what this guy is good at, I understand what this guy doesn't like to do, and we know what does it mean to rely on each other. So those teams work differently just because they know how to work together and what is good, what is bad for a person. And the next one is per courage. Courage has, even in extreme programming, courage is one of the values. And courage has tremendous impact on how the project will turn up in the end. Because oftentimes you might have this piece of legacy code that everybody is afraid to touch. Or you might have a management decision that you don't agree with, but you just decide not to take action. And with PER, have more courage to do the right thing, which again will be investment that's gonna pay itself in the future. And finally, we have a PER debugging. PER debugging is something that often happens when a person is working alone. You get the bug and you spend hours fixing something easy, because just because it's a bug you didn't see before, or just because you're looking in the wrong place. It doesn't need to be something complicated, it doesn't need to be something tricky, it just, for you, it's not easy to solve. But when people work in pair, oftentimes one person is like, here is the bug, okay, here's the bug. The one person is completely blind, but the other one sees it instantly. Again, great gain in productivity. So let's see what we have next. So details. There is a lot of details to pair programming, and there is the whole world of difference between doing good and bad pair programming. And there have been a lot of books written about it, what are the details and how to figure things out. So I will just mention couple of those details. So one is rotation. Pair programming is not very effective if you don't do rotation at the teams. The pair that's gonna be paired together at the beginning have a good gain of productivity, a lot of learning, a lot of extra motivation, but if you keep them working together for all the time, they just ain't gonna have that much of improvement as they would have if they were switching pairs. Then you have ping-pong pair programming, which is pair programming combined with test-driven development, which is kind of a game when one person is writing a task that is not passing, the other person is writing minimal amount of code that makes the test pass, and then the second person refactor the code. And then the cycle starts again, but on the other side. So that, I don't think I have to convince anyone that that has a tremendous impact on the code quality and code design. Then you have environment, and for example, in that code company that I work for, we removed the legs in between the tables just so people can sit comfortably within a pair. Some teams do 2 keyboards, big screen used to be a big thing about pairs. These days, everybody have a big screen. So it is important, and different pairs have different preferences, but in general, you have to modify your environment a little bit for the pair programming. And then, you have different type of pairs, and this is probably the trickiest part. So you have junior and junior pair, senior and senior pair, you have junior versus senior pair, and each of these setups might be very effective, but each has its own dangerous parts. So for example, 2 seniors, it only makes sense to pair them if the problem is really complex, because otherwise they will get bored with a simple problem working on together. 2 juniors is very effective pairing most of the time, and they learn very fast from each other, but they still need a code review from a senior developer to make sure they didn't do something really stupid against the architecture of the application, for example. And then if you have a senior and junior, then the intention of pairing is that senior teaches junior and is a kind of investment in the productivity of junior, and can be very effective pairing, especially if the junior programmer is very clever one. And it can be very satisfying for junior who learns a lot, and it can be also very satisfying for senior who gets all this freshness and questioning everything that he always thought is obvious, and also have a lot of gratitude for teaching and seeing the other person grow. And then you have extrovert introvert pairs, and the danger here is that extrovert will take over the process, and introvert, extrovert, maybe they will not do any work at all. So the list go on and on, but very effective pairing can be backend and frontend developers, can be developer and DevOps, can be all kinds of product owner and developer, all kinds of pair might be effective, doesn't mean they always are. So finally, what we did at DaftCode. At DaftCode, we have a couple of teams that work in pairs. One of the teams that we implemented pair programming with start with casual pairing. So the way we approach the problem is we say, as I said to the team, hey, maybe you want to work in pairs. I've read so much about pairs. This is so cool. Why don't you try out? And some people just try out pair programming, get positive about it, see how it benefits the pair and programmers. And what is very important, we also have this positive feedback from product owners saying our problems got solved more efficiently. And then when we have this positive vibe, we said, okay, we need we can do 1 month experiment. The whole team only works in pair. That brings even more positive energy. And the decision of the team was to continue work in pairs. And most of the time, we do work in pairs now. We do ping-pong programming whenever it is possible. So my advice to you is pair early, pair often. Don't be afraid. It's not rocket science. It can be very effective agile technique. If you would like to learn more or you still don't believe me, in 15 minutes I start open space about pair programming. Please feel invited. Thank you.